Well, I'm Elliot Merge. My great uncle was George Montgomery Letts. And so I'm going to give you a couple of little stories about him and how his life went and everything. And I like to do it in first person, so we'll get into that. Looks like everybody's here. Sorry. I'm really glad that you all came today. This is what I've always lived for, is to have an audience. I enjoyed being an actor. I enjoyed being a cowboy. I enjoyed being everything as I was growing up. My parents came over from southern Ukraine in 1914, and then in 1916, when they were settled up in the Brady area, I was born. I was the youngest of 15 surviving children, and being the youngest up there, my father and mother believed that they came to America because there was a land of opportunity. And they believed that everybody worked hard, everybody got compensated for what they worked. So being one of the youngest there in the family, we were on rodent patrol. We got a half a cent for every mouse tail, a nickel for every gopher tail. Every rattlesnake that we killed in the yard was 10 cents. Any rattlesnake we killed out of the yard was only a nickel. I always wondered how Dad knew which ones were in the yard and which ones were out, and then realized I had 14 little tattletales. So we would do this for money, and it worked out pretty good. You know, we took care of the farmyard and everything, kept the mice and the gophers and that down, and we were able to keep the chickens and everything alive. So then we'd get to be rewarded by going down to the movie theater. Well, movie theaters were cheap back then, you know, on a really blockbuster type movie, what we'd call a blockbuster now, they were only a dime to get in. And you got a nickel's worth of candy. You didn't get a bag, you had a handful for a nickel. So didn't think about it much back then, but we didn't wash our hands that much either. So you get this candy in there, and you're in the movie theater, and a little sweaty hands and that. We survived pretty well, though. You know, that's the key. Well, as time went on, we really outgrew the farm that we had there. The people got bigger and ate more, so we moved closer to Great Falls. Well, I was 13 when we moved closer to Great Falls, and we were just outside of town here, close to the Shuffles farm and that, maybe on Evans, I think. And I was able to ride my horse to school every day. And I was able to get myself a milk run, and I'd deliver milk before going to school. And then for a while I was actually delivering papers. But school gave me a really big opportunity. I really believed that it was neat to see these people on the movie screen, and everybody knew their name, and it wasn't "hey you," or it wasn't "you're late for supper" or anything like that. It was they knew their names. And I wanted something more than just being the youngest in the family and not always knowing who Mom was calling. So I got into drama in high school, and I really liked that. I had a good time with acting in school and that. And I also found that we had art classes. We didn't have them in Brady. We just had art, you know, we had art classes in school, and I was pretty good at drawing and designing things. I thought that I could be a house designer and such. As I went through school, I found out that they did a house design class down in Missoula, and I thought, well, that's the way to go. I'll just go do that, because then people will know me because I made their house, I designed their house, and then we build them. Well, I went to Missoula. Well, nobody wanted gopher tails and mouse tails and stuff, so I didn't have any money, and I got told that, you know, they do prize fighting, the little smokers down at the bar on the weekends. So I was down there and I was fighting and was doing quite well, you know, being raised by 14 people that beat on me all the time, you know, got me to be pretty tough, and I was a pretty good boxer and that. And I was making money and doing well, and the promoter goes, you know, they're looking for stuntmen down in Hollywood. He says, when school's out, you ought to go down there to Hollywood. Well, Maury, my next oldest brother, he and I, we went to Hollywood as soon as school was out. We got down there and we're kind of walking around trying to figure out what to do, and I saw a little poster, and Greta Garbo was putting together a movie that they were looking for a Russian boxer. Well, I could speak Russian and I was a boxer, so I got that job on my second day in Hollywood. And that just started the whole career. I was able to start into the movie business, and the first about years, they were like 3 to 4 movies a year. I kind of had a couple of good years that I was in as many as 6 movies a year. And things were going along really well. I was getting to be known. I was actually headlining in a lot of movies. I was a handsome guy back then. I've kind of lost some of that in this dirt here, but so it was working really well for me. And I met Dinah Shore, and we got married. And then there was a war that was going on, and I had applied, joined the Army Air Corps. I really thought I was going to get to go fly airplanes and shoot things and stuff like that. Turns out what they wanted me there for was to make movies for training films for the other people that were going to get to go out and fly the airplanes and shoot and such. So I made movies for about 1.5 years of training films and such. And when I got back, people didn't remember me very well anymore. I didn't get the top billing and sing things, and it was harder to find somebody that wanted me in their movie. So I did the next best thing. I became a movie director and producer. And then I cast myself as the lead role in a lot of those movies. Got into a lot of movies where I was going down to that we did from African type movies, safari movies. I really enjoyed Watusi, was a really good movie I liked. And as this career went on, I did 83 different movies. And I got on some TV shows. I was in Magnum PI as an extra. I was on Hawaii Five-0 a couple of times, did Cimarron City for a while. Even did some of the Lone Ranger movies, the TV shows and such. But as things would go, I wasn't being noticed as much as I wanted to be. And so I started back with my artwork. I designed 11 houses and people loved them, but eventually sold them and never bothered to tell anybody who designed them and built them. And so I was doing more of my artwork, and I'm pretty good at painting, but I really, really liked sculpting. So I started making bronzes, and I did one of Dinah Shore, one of John Wayne, one of Clint Eastwood, Ronald Reagan, which actually was in the White House during his time in the White House. So I've had a pretty good career of a lot of different things, and I decided I needed to do furniture, and I did some really neat furniture and had a business where we had 24 to 25 different carpenters doing furniture for all the people down there that wanted something you could sit on that didn't break. And so through the whole course of time, I thought, well, I'll be noticed, I'll be remembered. And then I decided that wasn't quite enough. So what I did is I took one of my favorite movies, which was, man, my mind just went blank again. Riders of the Purple Sage. And this is one of the sculptures, one of the scenes from it. I have another one of the scenes is at Fort Benton, overlooking the walking bridge at Fort Benton. And another one of me is down in, where the other half of me is buried down in California in the Palm Springs area. And I made them larger than life because I always wanted to be larger than life. I've never had legs that long. And The interesting part about this one is that they wouldn't let me have the gun out of the holster. Now in Fort Benton they allowed me to have the rifle in my hand, but up here they wouldn't let me have the gun out of the holster. And that's pretty much what I know about myself. Oh, I hope you had a good time.